This is highlighting a take from Ben Wallace, but I'll read what he said. Melo would have wanted to play right away. It would have potentially disrupted the team's chemistry. By drafting Darko Milicic, he was a guy that came in and said, I can't play on this team. I'm not ready to play on this team. Who am I going to play in front of? I'm not ready. By him doing that and accepting his role, it allowed us to build, grow, and get stronger and eventually win a championship. If we would have drafted Melo, Tayshaun Prince would have never blossomed and be the type of player that he became. We won a championship off of the back of the best block that I have ever seen in my life. Prince blocking Reggie Miller in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And I blocked a lot of shots. That was the type of grit and grind our team was. Maybe you could say they lose in 2004 because of Melo. However, the Pistons went to the conference finals like multiple times after that. Like they had a good handful of opportunities to win championships after that and just didn't. Well, I guess they only had 2 before Ben Wallace checked out because he went to the Chicago Bulls. But I believe they even made the conference finals without him in 2007. Yeah, they sure did. And they lost in 6 to LeBron. And they made the conference finals again in 2008. Like, they were a perennial playoff team that had championship level aspirations. 2006, they won 64 games. So, like, could you argue that the context of Darko coming off of the bench allowed this to happen in 2004? Maybe so, but you could also argue you would have won in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. Like, any of those years could have possibly been it if you had Carmelo Anthony. So I don't know that I buy that. If you want to say they wouldn't have won in 2004 specifically, that's fine. Also, like, yeah, Darko was going to be a guy who comes in and says, I can't play on this team because he couldn't, because he's one of the biggest busts in NBA history. Carmelo Anthony would have wanted to play right away because he would have been one of the best players on the fucking team. So I can't really get behind this. I get his perspective. Like, Tayshaun Prince maybe would have gotten less opportunity, but I also think there's no reason that has to be the case. It's more about how Larry Brown manages that. If he doesn't manage it well, yeah, it doesn't work. But like, if Carmelo Anthony plays 30 minutes a game instead of Mehmet Okur, like if he takes a couple of minutes away from Lindsey Hunter, that's fine. Like, that's different. That is very, very different. Like Corliss Williamson, no more 15 minutes for you. Lindsey Hunter and Mehmet Okur, no more 12 minutes for you. Run a 7-man rotation of just nothing but exceptional players. Like, you still could have gotten that, you know? So I'm going to have to disagree with that take, but I think it's pretty fair, especially from someone on the actual team. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and all that. I want to real quick apologize for the Stephen A. Smith Hater Manifesto not being out yet. Unfortunately, we had a complication with a sponsor, which has caused it to be delayed by a week, but it should be out by next week, so please keep an eye out for that. I apologize. That was not how we wanted things to go, but it does give us extra time to make the video just that little bit better. So yeah, again, sorry about that. Not how I would have liked that to roll out to go. But with that said, we are back with Discord hot takes. Also delayed that shit. Just kind of a bad week over here at Rusty Buckets Co., but we're figuring it out. Let's go ahead and get into some of these hot takes. From Alco, the Rockets' offensive expectations heading into the new season are highly bloated. To address the elephant, yes, KD is huge. He will certainly make the offense more legit heading into the offseason and overall better heading into the offseason. I think it's heading out of the off, but whatever. Overall better, but this isn't prime KD. He still moves the needle a lot, but him alone isn't enough to guarantee a top 3 offense. The main problem, though, is not KD, but the rest of the roster. It is a very young roster, and with one of the playmaking rotation vets in Van Vliet getting injured, I don't think they will have a graceful transition into a KD-centric offense. It will definitely work, no doubt, but I don't think they will be able to have a top 5 offense. I mean, is the expectation that the Houston Rockets will have a top 5 offense? I don't think that's the case. I don't think most people were saying that. I've been high on the Rockets, but I'm not like crazy. the Houston Rockets last year, I believe they were 16th in offensive rating. No, they were 13th in offensive rating. And the reason for that is they get so many shots because they get so many offensive rebounds. And they also are a heavy fast break team that dominates on the break and gets a lot of very easy points in that realm. What hurt them in the playoffs was that the pace slowed down a little bit, and it reduced their amount of break opportunities and resulted in their half-court offense standing out even more than it already did in the regular season. The logic behind Kevin Durant bolstering this offense is that they were already a decent offense just because of how much they get out in transition, how much they offensive rebound. But Kevin Durant would add to the half-court offense that is horrible, and if the half-court offense could even be average, then the overall offense would be in the top 10. And they only really need to be a top 10 offense to be a true contender because their defense is so good. They don't need to be a top 5 offense. That's to make it clear. Like, and I also, whose offensive expectations? Is there that many people who thought he was going to be that they were going to be a top 5 offense? Maybe I'm crazy and that's the consensus, or it was before Fred VanVleet got hurt. But my mind is the Rockets will be a great defense. They could be a top 5 offense, but probably more between 5 and 10. And I definitely wouldn't expect top 5 like by default. So yeah, I'm not sure where you're getting that. Maybe we're on 2 different internets, but I really don't think that's the case. From W, fans have become so desensitized to the offseason transformation to the point where they criticize players who haven't done so. The offseason is 3 months at best. It's pretty much impossible to gain 10 libs of muscle in that amount of time. Yet when a younger star player comes into the regular season in the same shape as the season prior, they get hate. It's gotten to the point where Zion and Luka's weight loss are publicly mocked because they say that every year when it takes multiple years to lose as much weight and build as much muscle as they have. Yeah, I mean, I can agree. I don't know that there's that many players who are, is that common? Again, maybe we're just on different internets, but I'm like, I don't think I see that many people being like, what the fuck? You're the same shape as last year? What the hell? There are some players where that can be applicable, but I don't really think that's much of a problem. Also, weight loss and muscle gain are dramatically different things. It is a lot easier to lose fat than it is to add muscle. By far, a lot easier. Yeah, so like, I don't know that those are exactly the same thing. And it's more like just don't be overweight. Don't be very clearly, visibly, obviously overweight. I will say something that was pissing me off is on Lakers Media Day, there were a couple of photos of Luka where he didn't have the best angle possible to highlight his physique. And there are people like, he didn't even change. He's just fat. He's still fat now. And I'm like, do you guys know how angles work? Do you guys know how cameras work? Do you know how anything works? It actually baffles me. It's the same thing as when people there are people who will argue about how tall a player is, and like I'll say Kevin Durant is 7 feet tall, and someone will be like, well, actually he's 6'11". You can see that he's 6. What do you mean? You can tell an inch? You can pick up on the difference of an inch that easily? What the hell is wrong with you? Now, in certain areas, an inch goes a long way, but just in the height department, I really don't think it does, especially in the NBA. From Reeves' Strongest Soldier, we don't talk enough about LeBron being one of the best, most efficient scorers in the dead ball era, mostly because his peak is at the end of the dead ball era and at the start of the spacing era from 2003 until 2009. He averaged 28, 7, and 7 on 48% shooting. Like, that's absolutely one of the best of his era. Yeah, I also should highlight that, like, 48% from the field for LeBron is actually low, and that's just because of the spacing era, but it's also just because he had more counters. You said 2003 to 2009. Yeah, I would even take away his rookie year if you want to be more specific. You take away his rookie season, yeah, it's 29 points per game, 7 and 7, as well as 3 stocks. But then if you go to Miami Heat era through his second stint in Cleveland, he's now at 53.4% from the field. And like the craziest shit was like 2013 and 2014, bro shot 57% from the field. He shot 61% on 14 2-point attempts per game. But like, yeah, LeBron was just more of a one-trick pony back then. Like, his offensive game outside of driving to the rim and passing was not very good, but he was still such a fucking unstoppable freight train that it was like, whatever, doesn't matter. So yeah, I will give you that. And I think if there was any case, if you were to make a case for LeBron being the GOAT scorer, even though I think it's MJ, it would be that he managed to be such a prolific scorer across multiple different styles of basketball. Like, you say the spacing era begins like post 2009, but like it definitely had to ramp up. So like, He kills it in the dead ball era, literally won a scoring title in the dead ball era in 2008. Then in like the transitionary years between Miami and Cleveland, he dominates scoring wise there. And then as we're officially for real in the spacing era by like 2017, he's still scoring this much. He averaged the second most points per game of his career at 37 in 2022. So he can average 30 in the spacing era at its maximum. He can average 28 in kind of some in-between years. And he averaged 31.4 in 2006 in the dead ball era. Like, it doesn't matter what basketball context you throw the man into, he's gonna fucking score. That's why it's so stupid. I really don't understand people who make the argument that that Jordan could not have played in the 90s when the 2000s are a more physical, more defensively inclined era than the 90s were. I really don't know how the 90s got the reputation for the defense more so than the 2000s, when the 2000s was the hardest era to score in by far. Zion media is proof that we all kept facial hair as a cheat code. Facial hair is a cheat code for men, basically. Is that really a hot take? I'm very grateful for mine. I do not look good without a beard. If you want evidence of that, go watch the Power Forwards, Death of the Power Forwards and Who's Next video. I rewatched that recently and I was like, man, that video's good, and man, do I hate how I look in this thing. Just awful for so many reasons. I will say, I don't know that I would go connected goatee if I was Zion. I feel like the difference between old man and young man goatee facial hair is, if you're a young man, the connection here is gone. You don't do this. You do it if you have a beard, but if you're just going goatee, you're not supposed to connect it. It just makes you look super old. So I saw someone who was like, yeah, goatees are for unks exclusively, man. That's not for you. All right, so this one, we have a saga here. My father decided to join the Discord. This is really my dad. He is not joking, but we're going to go to his take about Michael Jordan, which he gave me a heads up on. And me and my dad discuss basketball plenty. We have differences in opinion on the GOAT debate. I will say he's come a little bit more my way since we've discussed it recently, of being like, yeah, I get why people think LeBron is the GOAT, even though he is fully unwilling to actually say it himself. My stance on the GOAT debate is A, I'm kind of tired of it, and B, I don't really have a super strong opinion on it between LeBron and Jordan. I think they both have very reasonable cases. It more so matters about what you value. But this is what my dad values, or at the very least, the angle that he thinks works best to propel Michael Jordan as the GOAT, but prepare to watch some family drama unfold. In the GOAT debate, there are so many factors to consider, but this take shall focus on only one: entertainment value. For this category specifically, MJ is worlds past LeBron and anybody else that might creep into the debate. While I couldn't find specific stats because there are so many variables, I would bet my son's baby bucket's career, thank you for betting my career on my behalf, that MJ leads all other NBA players in YouTube views, documentaries, and written stories, pop culture references, and pretty much any other entertainment specific category you could think of by a significant margins. His games were can't miss events that never failed to entertain. He is my GOAT, period, and I don't think that will ever change, but I can understand some of the arguments for LeBron and some specific basketball achievements and or capabilities categories. Even agree with a point here or there. They just don't move my overall ranking. For entertainment value specifically, I don't think there is a good argument to be made for anyone other than MJ. Well, in just the entertainment department, I can't disagree. I would say that Michael Jordan is a better highlight player than LeBron. That's how I feel about it. Part of that is just because I love mid-range shots. The other thing, probably the most fun thing about Mike, other than his verticality, which is obvious, the way he grabs the ball, the way he just moves it around in one hand, all of that, just something about that really scratches the back of my brain in a good way. And then he's got an incredible mid-range game, just a freak of an athlete, tenacious on defense, brings a lot of energy. Like, he's simultaneously expressive without being like over the top, which is a nice line to ride. I will say though, entertainment isn't very high up on my list of things that are important for being the GOAT. Like, I don't mind like a media presence or highlights being good. I don't mind that being a part of the argument, and he's clearly not basing it entirely on that, but just that facet of it alone is not that important to me, because I would say that J.R. Smith is one of the 5 most fun players that I have ever watched in my life, and I wouldn't necessarily argue that he's anywhere near the GOAT debate. So yeah, I can't I would not disagree with the insinuation that MJ is the most entertaining player, but I would disagree with that making him the GOAT. But that's pretty much what I expected my answer to be going into this. So yeah, possibly more takes from my dad in here in the future. That will be interesting. From Conscious Feeling, we have some rapid fire takes before the season. I don't have any super well thought out takes before we get to some actual basketball, so I'll just empty the clip for some half-baked vibes shit just sitting in my head. 1, the Hornets and LaMelo are going to take a noticeable jump. Maybe not a postseason team, but definitely this team is going somewhere squad. I think if Brandon Miller is healthy and Con Knipple ends up being a pretty big contributor out of the gate, I'm inclined to agree. I am worried about their center position. We're in for a boring deadline. We had Fox and Luka last year. Get ready for role players, bench pieces, and second-round draft picks. I mean, I don't think a trade deadline is ever going to be crazier than last one. Just Luka. If Luka was literally the only player who got traded at the deadline, that still would have been the craziest trade deadline in NBA history. Still is. Regardless of what happens to Kawhi, the media circus around the Clippers is going to affect their squad for the worse. Either a tier or 2 below where they should be talent-wise. I think that's fair. I don't know how good they'll be, but the Suns are definitely going to be worth a watch next year. League Pass squad for me. Yeah, I actually find their roster interesting. I don't like Jalen Green, but pretty much everything about what they're working with, I don't think it's particularly good, but it's interesting and potentially fun basketball to watch. I projected Devin Booker to be the 6th best player in the NBA this season, purely because I think he is just going to average like 33 points per game, because he's kind of going to have to. Either the Knicks or Cavs fall short of the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know, wouldn't be stunned if both do. Well, given that neither the Cavs nor the Celtics made the conference finals last year while being the 2 clear favorites in the East, makes me inclined to agree with that one. From Briscoe, bring back the 5-game first-round series. I think how it can create a more crucial environment in each game works in its favor as far as entertainment goes, and it can help alleviate the schedule problems at hand. Yeah, that would make it not so stacked on top of each other, but I don't know. It's kind of a hard line to ride between like being, because you the argument for that would be like, man, what if a team that should have won the championship just kind of starts off slow and then they lose a series that they should have won because of the 7-game series thing? You can obviously be like, tough shit, that sucks, but that's your own damn fault. But like an example of this, 2008, the Boston Celtics in round 1, it went to 7, and if it was 5 games, well, the Celtics would have won. So never mind. The Celtics would have won in that instance. But I'm sure there's some other examples. Typically, you wouldn't expect that to happen of a team that eventually is going to win the championship, so it's probably not that big of a deal. But like, I could see that being very controversial. It's one of those things that like, you go back and look at the history and you're like, whoa, I think I actually fuck with that. I think I like that idea. I also recently rewatched the 93 finals. There'll be a video about that this weekend. And that was the 2-3-2 format. I have mixed feelings on it, but it is interesting. I don't hate it in its entirety. And last take of the video from Joe. People are already starting to underrate Westbrook's career because of his last few years in the league. He is unarguably a top 10 point guard of all time, maybe even 5, but yet it feels like only bad things are ever said about him. I don't know. I just think he should get more praise like other guys did when they phased out, like Melo and Vince. Well, I don't think Melo got a lot of praise on his way out. I mean, Melo kind of has a weird cult following in a way. There are definitely there are at least some holdouts to this day who are like, man, why isn't Carmelo Anthony in the league right now? Like the last couple of years, of his career that were very touch and go. He had an army of people who were willing to fight for him and his side, but for the most part, people were like, damn, Melo sucks now. On the Thunder, on the Blazers, on the Lakers. He was better on the Blazers, on the Rockets as well. Although I do agree that they kind of threw him under the bus. I don't know that it was that. They should have pulled the plug as early as they did. But I do think he had plenty of hate there. I think the difference with Vince is Vince had a very portable game. He had a very big willingness to come off of the bench. Very happy to play minimal amount of time. And he was a three-point shooter. And that's the thing. Like, the reason Russell Westbrook's last few years were bad is because he's the worst high-volume three-point shooter in NBA history. And that was okay when he was also getting to the rim constantly. That was okay when he was getting triple-doubles and shit. But he can't really do that anymore. So his game's just not portable. His game does not scale down well at all. So his last couple of years went shit. But what I will say for Russell Westbrook, we will remember the positive more than the negative. The negative is just more on our mind because it's the most recent thing. But when the end is the end, and especially after it's been a season or two has passed since he's retired, I promise you the conversation around him will get a lot more positive. I think the thing with him as well, and I have I don't know, I want to come up with a term of some kind for this, but like, there are players who walk right up to the line of being good enough to be a first option at a championship level, and Russell Westbrook walked up to that line, but then the problem is they're not really built to be second options either. Obviously, Kevin Durant and Russ could have won a championship. There's a lot of other problems with the Thunder that got in the way of that, besides for Russ not being a great second option all the time. That is what hurt him the most in his career, is that he really wasn't supposed to be the best player, and the times that he was, he put up fucking crazy numbers, but his teams were just not really built to win. And when they went and added more talent, when he became more secondary to Paul George, just wasn't as good, just didn't really fit the same, didn't really hit the same. So yeah, I get where you're coming from. I think Russ will ultimately be remembered positively. We just gotta get away. We have to get some separation between like the Lakers years and now, and we're working our way there. He's just always been a very controversial player. He's been a very difficult player to exactly put your finger down on just how good he is. But I can absolutely agree that he is without a doubt a top 10 point guard of all time. And I think I don't know if I would give him the 5th spot. My top 4 would be Steph, Magic, Chris Paul, and Isaiah Thomas. That 5th spot, I feel like I'd probably just go Oscar Robertson to give the shout out to the 60s, but also, if I'm being honest, I definitely think Russell Westbrook was better. Definitely think Steve Nash was better. So I think I might go Steve Nash, just because Steve Nash had a more reliable, efficient game, but I don't know. It really comes down to what you value, and undeniably, should not even be a conversation as to whether or not he's a top 10 point. That is very clearly the case. But you had fucking Hendrick Perkins arguing, bro, like Chris Paul's not top 10. So I guess some people say some wild shit. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Oh, wait, also, again, look out for the Stephen A video next week. My apologies on that. Goodbye for real this time.